said in the case of the guy that we didn't have the black tissue, and then 3 weeks later he saw it, and he said it looked pink and stuff. He said it healed fine. He didn't really mean it healed fine. It looked fine, but really.
Yeah, it was there. It was there. It wasn't, and
It looked fine.
Yes. Yeah. It. So what do I mean by healed? It's never going to be exactly the same. Right.
Okay.
Probably. But you know, he didn't lose it, and he's going to be able to use it probably in about 6 months. One of the people who got frostbite, she typed a lot. Awful on the ends of her fingers. You know, hitting those.
It's never the same.
Right. Going back to hypothermia a little bit. Now, this hypothermia is another very, when somebody's into a hypothermic state, you need to get them out too. This is another. You can rewarm them to save them, but if you do it wrong, you'll kill them. Okay? And this has happened several times, and one of the most, probably the most interesting cases is these, I think they were Danish fishermen that they rescued, and they were hypothermic. Do you know that story?
I think I know.
Were they all dropped dead?
Yeah.
I'm talking to you. So they rescued them, and they were in the at North Atlantic or whatever, and they got them up, and they got them warmed up. And all of a sudden, these guys are, they stand up and they start walking around, and then they all dropped dead. Okay? After this. It's called after drop. Right? Yeah. So if you think that you've got the person warmed up, you've got their core warmed up, right? But let's say that the muscle is still cold. And so now these blood vessels that we have that are on the periphery are starting to open up and allow the blood now to go down to a cold region. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? Our blood vessels normally constrict to our extremities. Okay? When we're hypothermic. That is the body's way of saving itself, the core. So the core is starting to warm up, and the person comes to with the blood to the brain and everything, and you think that you've revived them. Okay. Then these other smaller blood vessels start to open up and let the blood go to now a place that's still actually cold, like your foot or your arm or something. And it brings that cold blood back to the heart. Okay, so it's a very delicate. Yeah.
Cold blood went back to work.
Yes. They dropped dead. Is that the story that you remember? Yeah. I mean, like several of them. Right?
There's like 4 of them and none of them survived.
Right. Yeah, they just, you think you've got them, they're up talking, drinking coffee or whatever, and they all drop dead. So, yeah. So you want to make sure if you go in the Arctic or cold regions. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Is that you read up on this, and I have actually books that I recommend are this book right here is probably the best. I have one that's a little bit different. These books are the best. Hypothermia, frostbite, and cold weather injuries. If anybody would be interested in one of these, I have a couple extra copies up here. This talks about all these cold weather injuries and ways, and then there's new literature on how to try to warm somebody up. You want to warm them from the inside. If you can just breathe warm air into your air into their face, it helps a lot because they're taking in warm air and starting to warm up from the inside out.
I'm sure
These, I don't know. I think they're whatever 30% off $13 is. Okay. So, frost nip now. Frost nip is something that John mentioned here. Is just when there's a superficial blanching of the skin. The skin freezes on the outside. Not dangerous. Can be cured just by putting your hand over it and warming it up, or putting your hand over your cheek or your nose and warming it up. Several times I put my hand into my mouth and warmed it up, to keep it with that regard to that time that I couldn't get my glove on, the Gore-Tex glove. I was going to have frostbite if I didn't have help with somebody sneaked back and gave me their glove, because after a while I couldn't, not only could I get the Gore-Tex opened up enough to put my hand in, but I couldn't feel my hand after about 2 minutes, So I couldn't physically even open it up if I wanted to, right? So, you know, have somebody there to help you with that. But with the frost nip, it's a thing of just watching the other person. If you see a white, looks like white wax blanching on them, you need to say you're getting frost nip, and you know, just cover it and heal it. And it doesn't usually have any thing afterward that makes it bad if it doesn't freeze deep into the tissue. Trench foot. Okay, this is again going to these different levels of. This is what you would get between 45 and 25 degrees, and this is where your feet are wet and in cold conditions for 2 to 3 days. You'll be incapacitated with trench foot. During World War I and World War II, I mean, the casualties in the troops from trench foot were enormous. You just can't imagine. And then these books talk about how many people had trench foot. And you can't walk. I mean, and it could lead to the loss of your foot if it becomes gangrene. Okay, so you need to be able to get into warm socks, and be able to get into warm shoes.
And how about this wet, like you just have sweaty socks?
Yeah.
That's not the kind of what you're talking
No,
about.
I'm talking about, and I don't think, I have never had it, and I've actually never seen it, so I don't think just sweaty but is enough. I think your feet actually have to be wet, you know, and cold.
Just means at the end of the day, if it's sweaty feet, you get dry.
Right, yeah, you need to dry your feet. Right. Chilblains is another cold weather injury, and this is when just the skin is exposed to cold weather, and it just becomes irritated, itchy. Many of us may have had something in this. You just need to cover your skin, and it won't have chilblains. Fog or nip or barber fog. These are the fogs that I was talking about that can happen inside your tent, and they can certainly happen in nature where the ice, it's a fog of actual ice crystals. So you don't want to be necessarily breathing that. So it would be a good time to put your balaclava up over your face, just something to filter out these ice crystals so you're not breathing in sharp ice crystals. Going down now, cold fluids. Here's one that's got several people. So it's a minus 50 out. You're in Alaska. You've gone out to do something, right? And you've got a bottle of vodka in the car. And you come back, and you're going to take a drink of it. What temperature is the bottle of vodka?
It's not frozen.
Right, it's not frozen.
Mine too.
Yeah, it could be, you know, minus 40, minus 50, something
It's
like
not
that.
frozen.
Right. It'll kill you. Okay? And, I mean, once you drink it, going past your heart, it's cold enough to put you into cardiac arrest. Okay? So we get so used to thinking that everything's sort of like water, that if it's not frozen, you know, but there are, you know, like alcohol, for example, can get really cold, and you take a swig of that, and when it's really cold out, and that could be the last drink you take, right? Another thing is that your stove fluid that you're filling your stove with, if it's you fill it on your hand, you immediately get frostbite. You know, not only is it evaporating and making it colder when it goes off your hand, but it can cause, you know, a bit of frostbite just to have the stove fluid, because it could be at a minus 20 or a minus 30. Okay, so you want to be aware that not all fluids melt or freeze at 0 degree or 32, and know that you could get hurt if you don't take that into account.